weeks back, I shared a post about how difficult it is to find an emotionally available / intelligent black man. And baby, y'all had a lot to say. So much so that I've decided to bring this discussion to my table with my favorite ladies, and we've asked culture critic Naima Cochran to weigh in. What's up, Naima?
Hey, Jessie.
I'm Jessie Wu with my lovely co-host, Shamika and Christmas. Listen to Black Women starts now. Now, for those of you who may not have seen it, I'm gonna read the post again for reference. It's crazy how difficult it is to find emotionally available, intelligent men, especially black ones. It's also crazy how emotionally available those same men are for non-black women.
Preach.
It's violent at this point. But before we can get into the dating aspect of being emotionally available and being emotionally intelligent, we must first define those terms. Emotional intelligence is the ability to understand, use, and manage your own emotions in positive ways to relieve stress, communicate effectively, empathize with others, and overcome challenges and diffuse conflict. Amen?
Preacher.
All right. And emotional availability describes the ability to sustain emotional bonds in relationships. So with that being said, the question of the day is, can a man be emotionally available if he lacks emotional intelligence?
Wow. I think you can be, but in order to be a healthy level of emotionally available, you have to have emotional intelligence. You have to be able to put up healthy boundaries. You have to have healthy communication issues, because we've all been with that man whose emotions are a little too open, right? Who is a little too needy, who's putting a little too much on us. Okay. So you have to know, for one, that your woman is not your therapist.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm not Dr. Phil.
Hello.
I'm not Dr. Oz. I'm not none of them.
So I think that knowing what is healthy in terms of emotional communication, in terms of sharing, in terms of responding to your partner's needs, is necessary for a healthy amount of emotional availability.
I agree.
Ooh, that was a good point right there. Ain't none of them letters in front of my name. So I agree. I think that, as I've said before, two truths can exist at one time, but I do think that you need the emotional intelligence to get to, like you said, a healthy place with it. For men, I find that, you mentioned this earlier, the trauma. And what happens with men is I feel like that they don't address the trauma. I have some men that I'd be like, yo, something is deeper. There's a deeper issue here. You gotta get to the root, boo.
The root. You gotta get to the root.
And he will argue me down. He'll be like, would you stop trying to diagnose me and do all these things? I'm like, but baby, there's something
It's bubbling
deeper.
up.
It's bubbling up to the surface. And
It's
you
like
have to
McDonald's 7-Up.
Yes.
It's bubbling.
It's like you hit that Sprite first. You gotta get to the root of it, and I think that they're just afraid to go deeper there. And also, society doesn't really make it easy for men, especially black men, in therapy. This is a new concept that black people have been exploring. Like, no, it's okay, we can do therapy. This is why we pay people.
Jesus don't fix everything.
Okay, and then religion is also a big thing. And also a big thing in the black community is just sweeping it under the rug. So the emotional intelligence aspect, I think it could be there. We just have to work really hard. Men have to do the work.
Yes.
They have to be willing to do the work.
And you have to be willing to do the work.
That's, I think, the issue that a lot of us run into. A lot of them just are not willing to do the work. What say you, Christmas?
Okay, so what say me is this. I think that people confuse emotional intelligence with not being available. So if a man is not available for you, then you would say, a lot of people say, right, oh, he's just not emotionally intelligent. When I even think about myself, there's people who I'm dating and I'm not emotionally available for all of them. I mean, it's usually one. Emotionally available for that person because my intelligence lets me know that I feel safe with him. So I think that the same as, you know, with men, if a man doesn't feel safe with you, then he's definitely not gonna let you in his emotions.
I agree with that. I want to talk about kind of the story that I was giving where we focused on one guy, right? And I think the root of his problem in a lot of males is they have daddy issues.
And mommy issues.
Yeah, they have mommy issues too. But we don't talk a lot about men who have daddy and mommy issues a lot. We always focus on women and all the stereotypes that come with women who have daddy issues, especially the daddy issue.
Yeah.
But I remember dating a man one time. We had a discussion. I was telling him, I think you need therapy.
Yeah.
I really think you need therapy because the only time I really see your emotions truly is when we're in the bedroom. Outside of that, I don't see you. You're very blank.
Right.
And I have to poke to get there. And I'm invested in you to get there, but I'm not getting that in return.
Right.
And then the next time that I saw all the emotions were when he was talking to his dad about me.
Right.
When we scratched the surface a little bit more, I found out that him and his daddy had a strained relationship. So it kind of made sense to me then. It's like, well, you never felt safe. Ever. So now I'm looking for something from you that was never given to you.
Right.
Do you guys feel like a lot of men suffer from that?
100%. People only know what they know, right? You know what you've been shown. And like you said, I find it ironic as well that people always talk about women and daddy issues when men who didn't grow up with their fathers, much bigger field to plow, in my opinion, right?
Yeah.
Because there are issues of how you define your manhood and who taught you that and acceptance and you know, why he don't want me, Uncle Phil. It's all of that, right? Like all of that comes up.
Uncle Phil.
And they end up sometimes trying to prove something with their partner without even realizing it, to your point. And it is kind of hard for men to admit a level of vulnerability and a level of weakness, but there's making them feel safe to do that. And then there is, once again, being their therapist. And that's where your emotional intelligence has to come into play as to what makes sense for you without it getting into an unhealthy area for you.
Exactly.
Lately, the conversation around emotional availability has been geared towards millennial Black men. But I also think it's important not to leave out Generation X. Naima, how do you feel that men from Generation X fit into this combo?
Well, I think there are some misconceptions about Black men from Gen X, right? I mean, granted, we're the children of boomers. You know, fathers didn't necessarily hug their kids. They were tossing balls around. They were doing man stuff. They taught them not to cry, play with boy stuff, all of that, right? But I think it's important to also recognize that this is a generation who's trying to break that cycle. Even though they survived the crack era, even though they saw their friends killed before they graduated high school, you know, mass incarceration, all that trauma, they're trying to hug up on their sons. They're trying to tell their boys, like, I love you. So they're trying to change some things. I'm not gonna say it's perfect, but there's been a lot for them to fight through too. So dating, especially older as a Gen Xer, and trying to break through cycles that we were all taught as younger, because even Gen X women were taught certain expectations of a man when we were first starting to date that we're now trying to change. It's challenging, but they're trying. They're trying. But I'm curious with you ladies, right? So I'm a generation older. Gen X is a generation older than the millennial generation. And I've seen the conversations that you all have, and you're trying to use more words and dialogue. So, but I am curious, like, how has been your experience to open up to men and be emotionally available?
Well, my love language is words of affirmation, so I'm always using my words. I might be too emotionally available sometimes, and then sometimes I can cut it off because you talk to someone so much and you say so much that sometimes you're just like, I don't want to say anymore.
You're just talking.
I'm just like, are you going to say anything? Because I'm just talking. And I'm telling you that you need to do these things because women, and I feel as Black women, we have to do the work. We have to do the work. And we've been doing the work, whereas the men, we coddle them. And I'm guilty of this. I'm not saying like other women do this. I'm guilty of this. We're nurturing, and I coddle my man, and I'm just like, I just need you to understand. I need you to understand that you don't understand. I need you to understand that you
understand and not the understanding is not it.
Understanding.
You know that I need you to know that you lack the emotional intelligence because the things that go into that are like manipulation or gaslighting or things where you're not able to diffuse a situation that could have not gone completely left, but your manhood had to take it there. So, you know, my experience has been, I am constantly saying these things, but I feel like Maybe it'll be better if it was coming from their friend. As soon as it come from their friend, they'd be like, oh, you're in therapy?
And all of a sudden they act like you never said it.
Right,
I never said anything.
It always hits different when your homeboy holds you accountable.
Oh.
Right.
Which seldom
Always.
happens, but that's
Which
another
doesn't-
conversation.
Exactly.
Because
That's a
they
whole
ain't
other
got it.
conversation.
They ain't got it.
Right.
So Chris, all right, let's say that you've been using all these great words, having all these conversations. Do you adjust to your man's level, or is there a point at which you walk away?
You know, honestly, so as a survivor of domestic violence, I found that within myself, right, after that trauma happened, it took a long time, and it's one of those things that it never really goes away. The triggers are few and far between now, but in the beginning, right after that relationship, I realized that I was attracting beta males. Right? Because I wanted to feel safe. So
Right.
there was a certain temperament that they had, even their stature. Like that,
Oh
that
my
person,
gosh,
my
that's-
abuser, right, was a
Yeah.
taller man. And then I didn't know it at the time. It was like, you know, it's been about 10 years. So for 10 years, when I look back at who I've been dating, right,
Damn.
they've been my height, they've
Wow.
been my, you know, even financially, we were kind of like the same, because I think subconsciously that made me feel safe, because I didn't want to be physically abused or financially abused or anything like that. And I realized that as I continued to heal, I was able to attract an actual alpha male, not a beta male in disguise. Because there's a lot of alpha males, they're really beta males disguised as alpha males. So now that I'm healed, those green flags, what I thought were green flags were really red ones.
Right.
Now I'm starting to see them more clearly. And I think that's another symptom of like abuse. When you're abused, it's like the Stockholm syndrome. Like you're staying around and you're like, I can fix it. If I don't say this or if I don't do this, then this won't happen. But the truth is, we cannot fix
Can't
no
fix-
man.
yeah.
I don't care how
No,
many
we
times I
can't.
tell you to go to therapy.
You can't.
I don't care how many times I rub your back at
Listen,
night and tell you it's
can't.
okay that your daddy didn't show up to pick you up from football practice
Right.
when you were in
Yeah.
the 3rd grade.
Right.
There's nothing that I can do until someone realizes that they have a problem.
And they wanna do
and
the
until we
work.
stop accepting it and trying to fix it. The problem is that these men are dating women who continue to accept it because we believe that
believe
there's
we
no
can
one
fix
out there
it.
for us. So we're like, well, you know, he got the
That's
money.
part of the problem.
He looks
Well,
good. He's
also, we
this, so I'll
believe
settle.
we can fix
Right,
it.
right.
We
So-
believe we're the person who
cannot.
can match.
Right.
It's
No.
not Build-A-Bear.
It does, no. Child, it's getting real deep up in here, which means it's time to get into the nitty-gritty. Ladies, I want to ask you guys a question. How does the strong black woman narrative lead to the emotional abandonment from everybody? And how does that play into today's topic?
So, you know, there's a saying that the squeaky wheel gets the grease, right? Black women have taught to not be squeaky. So the thought is, we're gonna be good regardless,
Right.
because that's what we project. And that's what we do because we have to,
Right.
right? But there's a difference between being battle ready because you know you have to fight and because you want to fight. And there's this misunderstanding between us being, you know, wanting to have equity and us wanting to do everything. So sometimes men go where they feel that there is a damsel in distress that needs them and they can handle, or someone who is crying or weak, and that's something that we just have a problem with showing, because our thing is we're gonna soldier on the way we have.
Yeah, I always say, like, I'm tired of being a strong black woman. Do
Listen, I
not call
retired.
me. Yeah,
I
I'm
retired
tired
during
of being
COVID.
a strong black
The
woman.
kids are-
I'm weak. I'm worn. What's that gospel song? I'm weak.
tired, weary, and worn.
Like,
Listen,
Lord. Like, please stop calling me a strong black woman.
It's not a compliment.
I cannot do
Yeah,
it
I'm exhausted.
anymore.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
this is really tolling on my emotions and my body. Like, I can't. What do you have to say, Shamika?
So, I think men are weak. Just kidding. A little bit.
I'm gonna be over here for these
so-
comments. Come.
Yeah. No. I think that as black women, we've always had to be strong, right? We've watched our mother be strong because men have fallen short for us in ways, and we always have to pick up the slack. At this point, though, I think it's not a stereotype anymore. I think it's a trope, and I think it's
Yup.
being used against us.
Yup.
When black women, we are just asking for respect. We are asking for you to be nice.
Yeah.
We are asking for some decency and to meet us halfway.
Period.
Sometimes we are literally just asking you to meet us halfway. And it ties into the emotional intelligence because men can be emotional bulldozers. And they don't meet us halfway. And therefore, we have to, again, replenish our cups from emptiness. And we have to be strong again. And we're also so loyal to black men that we won't let it go. You talked about being in a physical abusive relationship. I can relate to that. And you think you can fix them. You think you can love it away until you realize it has nothing to do with you. And I find so often we see on social media that they perpetuate these things like, oh, if you got good cat, that's why your man. It has nothing to do with you, sis. It has everything to do with them and what their trauma and what they've witnessed and their emotional inability to conquer those demons. And that is where their lack of emotional intelligence comes in.
So, and they'll let us do the emotional labor for both.
Yes, and they will let us, there will be time, like, even in a healthy relationship where you're giving so much and you're just like, okay, but I know I've been working a lot. Let me go get some lingerie. And again, I'm giving so much just to overcompensate to make it work. Who's replenishing my cup?
Listen, I just feel like, you know, the game of tug of war and you're tugging and you're warring, we just have to let it go. Like, let it go. I'm not about to fight with you. It takes two to tango, right? Get out of these codependent relationships where we're allowing people to literally get away with murder because we need them to pay the bills, or we need them to stroke our egos, or we need them to have sex with us so that we feel validated. When we stop needing to be in a relationship and we start being in relationships because we want to be, because we say that we're ready to be, then I feel like we will elevate. Because here's the thing, we have to lead by example. We're getting therapy, okay, at higher rates. We're getting our coins. Like, we're having spaces like this and shows like this where people are watching us and we're all doing this group healing. We're here and we have to, like Jay said, we have to set our price and live our life.
Period. I was telling my friend the other day, I said, you know what? These people, these men that love to say, well, you're gonna die alone. I'm never gonna die alone. The intimacy that I need in my life, if I don't find it in a man, like I have it with my family, I get it with my friends. So if you're a woman and you ever feel like you're lacking intimacy, I suggest that you lay into those relationships that serve you, and you will find the intimacy there. I can guarantee it.
And mainly the one with yourself, because how we do one thing is how we do everything, right? So when we do ourselves right, we're gonna do everything else right.
Of course.
But then you get labeled the angry black woman who don't want to be with nobody, and now they're like, let me go over here.
Well, fine.
But
then.
this is how we.
I'll
This
be
is the
an angry
circle.
black woman in my big old house,
And you know that's
taking
what I'm
my
saying.
vacations once a month in my big old, with
my friends.
with my friends,
And
with
my
panoramic
rose.
views,
And
and
my
wherever
rose.
I'm at, and I will be fine.
Yeah.
Point blank, period. You know what I wanted to address? So in my post, I started off by saying men. Then I say especially black men, but so many people skip over that. I wanted to bring that back up because statistics say that only 35% of men in general are emotionally available and emotionally intelligent. So it just means that for the most part, we're gonna run into this at some level. You know, how do you deal with that? And is it a sign that we kinda, as black women, should explore more outside of our race?
To your point, it happens with men across the board.
Why did y'all look like that? Wait a minute.
Well,
Why did y'all look like that? Because no, honestly, I do, just for me, I know I've been very loyal to just having a black man, having black children. Like, I have always fantasized and dreamt about that. And I do feel a little sadness sometimes when I do see a lot of my friends, they are finding all the things that we're discussing. They're finding
non-black men.
in non-black men.
Listen, I see it on social media, and my friends and I joke like, "Oh, she found her white king." But like you, I've only ever envisioned myself with a black man, but also to the point of your stats. I mean, listen, during shutdown, there were all these stories about wives and husbands who, even those who had like liberal partnerships where they got home and all of a sudden the wives still found themselves carrying everything, right? So it's not just a black man thing. It is a difference in perceived and ingrained gender roles, and it goes deep, right? So for me, I'm not quite willing to give up on the black man just yet. But I do think that, you know, there's no harm in loving who you love, exploring what you explore. I do have a problem with it being like I'm completely abandoning one set in favor of another set, because I feel like that's what black men do to us sometimes.
Right.
You know?
I think I'm at a point where I'm like, it's not that I want to give up on black men, but I want to choose me.
Yes.
I want to choose me, and I want to choose what chooses me in the best way, what chooses
Right.
me in the healthiest way, what chooses me in the happiest way. So I went on a date recently, and this is our first date. Towards the end of the date, he looked at me and he said, I have a great therapist. I want you to speak to my therapist. And I bring this up because I felt like for the first time, a man saw me immediately. So I bring this up to say, what are signs when you are dating a man that he is emotionally intelligent? Because that
That's a
was an
good
emotionally intelligent
question.
man.
I feel like number one listens to you, right? So if I say, you know, I like flowers, and then you bring me flowers. You know, it's like the little things that become the big thing.
Yeah.
Not being so defensive. Me not having to pull teeth when I don't have to even ask you about certain things because you're just letting me know about your family history and, you know, even your traumas and things that hurt your feelings. I just feel like being completely transparent about how you feel, and because when he does that, that means that he can accept me when I do that. So, green flag.
I will say, I don't need to share traumas on the first date. That's something that y'all millennials, y'all like to do that. Y'all like to talk about how
The world is
I'm not doing the trauma bonding on the first date, but what I do like is to go beyond surface questions, right? So if he asks me something about myself and I answer, and he has a follow-up, like an actual intelligent follow-up, like, oh, how did you get into that? Where's your interest in that? And where does your mama do that and blah, blah, blah. And that shows not only that he's listening, but he's interested in knowing more.
Yeah.
That lets me know that there is a level of emotional intelligence there, that he genuinely wants to get to know who I am, not just check the boxes like, you cook, you live alone, you got this, you got,
So
you
we're
know
just
what I
talking
mean?
about first dates.
Yeah.
Okay.
To me, well, I thought that was
Well,
the
it could
question.
be first date or just in
dating.
general.
I mean, but honestly, this is an in general thing.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
our conversations show a level of, I'm interested in what you're saying and I want to know more. Are you learning about me? Because if you're learning about me, that teaches you how to react to me, whereas some men just have a routine. No matter who
Yes.
the woman is,
Yep.
no matter what it is, I'm acting the same, I'm doing the same move, same thing,
You
same
get a puppy.
everything.
You get a puppy. You get a
Yeah,
puppy. No.
and like that's just supposed to work across the board where we're individuals, right?
Yeah.
So for me, that's always a big sign. Is like, are you actually paying attention to who I am?
I think for me, it would be how they talk about themselves. If we're talking like something really initially, because you'll get around some men and they don't stop talking. And like I said on another episode, they just be talking. And you're just like, what are you talking about? And then I can
And
definitely
then at the end, they'd be like, you're such a good listener.
even like, I'm not listening. I done checked out immediately. Because once I heard you say certain flags, I'm
Yeah.
already just like,
I'm gone.
no, you ain't it. Because you clearly don't know yourself. Because I
Yeah.
done peeped you in these last few dates, and that is not it.
Yeah.
Okay, you're not self-aware. So I'm looking for self-awareness.
Ooh, that's a good one.
That's
That's
my
a
answer.
good one.
Self-awareness.
You know what I look for? How a man talks about his past relationships.
Yes.
The women in his past relationships.
Ooh.
It
Like,
can
is it
tell
always
you-
their fault?
Yes.
Yes.
And when it's always their fault, that man is an emotional abuser.
Yep.
Because he doesn't know how, he doesn't have self-awareness.
Self-awareness.
Yep.
He doesn't have accountability.
Yep.
And he is diabolical. Diabolical.
But if he doesn't talk about her at all, he's still with her.
Ooh, okay. Girl, that's a
That's
gem.
another topic.
That's a fact.
That's a whole other topic
And that
right
is
there.
a gem.
Well, on that note, we know that these men got a lot of work cut out for them.
Child.
I mean, some of us do too, but that's not today's topic. Okay, we gon'
Who said that?
Thank you so much, Naima, for joining us today.
Thank you, darling.
Loved having you. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Listen to Black Women this week. We'd love to hear your thoughts on today's topic. So drop your comments below or hit us up on Twitter, but make sure to tag @MadameNoire. Coming up, we'll discuss the policing of Black women's bodies. It's a good one. I'm Jessie Wu, along with my lovely ladies, Christmas and Shamika. We'll see you guys next week.